Welcome, everybody, to the Sideline Speaks. No Brittany Jones tonight, but you do have Kevin Walker and Jason Collins. We're glad you guys are with us. Got a great show for you guys tonight. A lot of stuff to talk about. The NFL is in full swing, so we're going to recap this weekend's NFL's games. We're going to talk a little bit of college football. We're even going to talk about the WNBA finals. What a great final series for the WNBA. A lot of great, tough physical basketball being played. K Walk's Liberty got it done. So we're going to get into that later in the show. So just a lot of really good topics to get into tonight. So looking forward to a great show. K Walk, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing well, Jay. Doing well. Looking forward to another great one. As you said, my Liberty did it, man. My Liberty did it. Had a little help, but they did it nonetheless.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. And before we get started, we got to say what's up to Sandy and Sean. What's going on, guys? We appreciate you guys being here as always. All right, K-Walk, another great guest this week. We've been having some great guests, and we got another one for you guys this week. And we got Coach John Bunting, played in the NFL for the Philadelphia Eagles. Has been coaching forever, a little bit of everywhere, college, professional, Kansas City Chiefs, Glassboro State, K-Walk, which is kind of in our backyard growing up in South Jersey. So let's bring in Coach Bunting and let's bring it in. Coach, how you doing tonight? Thank you for being with us.
Hey, I'm glad to be with you guys. Really are.
Awesome.
Fun.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Well, let's jump right into it, Coach, because we've had some of your former teammates on from the Philadelphia Eagles the last few weeks. We had Wilbert Montgomery. We had Vince Papale. Is that how you say it, K-Walk? Is that correct?
Papale. Yes, Papale.
And they all spoke so highly of Coach Dick Vermeil. Every single one of them just had wonderful things to say about Coach. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. What was it like playing for Coach Vermeil? What was it that made him so special and endearing?
And he was a very, very special man and still is to so many of us. He reaches out to his former players quite a bit. And I speak with him probably at least once or twice a month. And I appreciate that relationship that I had with him as both as a player. He may be the player representative, which in some ways worked well. But the 82 strike was a very difficult time for all of us. And he retired after that. And I was fired 2 weeks after that season ended, which is not unusual for a player rep. But let me just say this about him specifically and why he was so good. Because I had played for two other coaches prior, Eddie Kayat, who's a really good guy. Old school guy. Mike McCormick came from the Redskins. Quite a big time background. Coach with Fort Allen, great offensive line coach. But Dick Vermeil was different. Number one, and specifically, he kept his promises. Two of them in particular. He told us that we would work really, really hard, and he did that. We did work hard, and he told us that those that did not perform, those that did not work hard, would be gone. Now, I'd heard that from other coaches in the past.
Yeah,
they would kind of defray and sit idly by while players didn't perform. Dick Vermeil was different. You got to perform. You got to play well. You got to play hard, especially to play for him. And our practices were very, very difficult. Particularly, we go to training camp July 3rd, 1976. And on July 4th, the next day, we're at a meeting, the entire squad. And as you might guess, there's fireworks going on outside of our building. And Dick, he is very perturbed. And he tells Carl Peterson, our player personnel guy, later the president of the Chiefs, Carl, go outside, find out what's going on. We can stop this noise. We have to have a meeting. Yeah. Carl comes back in About 5 minutes later, he goes, Coach, they're celebrating the bicentennial out there. They're shooting off fireworks. We're not going to be able to stop them. Coach Vermeil goes, that's crazy. All right, we'll finish this meeting. But we started in '76. We went to camp early. We had 7 weeks of two-a-days. When we were playing a preseason game, we still went out on the day of a game with shoulder pads. To have a practice, an hour-long practice. That was the way it was, and so we learned what we had to do to perform and how to become a better team. And we had no draft picks. They got Roman Gabriel for 2 first rounds. They got Bill Berkey, who was a great player. I might add, God bless him. He's fighting hard, folks. With 2 first round picks, we had no picks. We didn't have a pick until 1978 when they took Reggie Wilkes in the 3rd round, who was one of my guys that I had to compete against, who was a very, very good player.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to play. If you didn't play hard, if you didn't practice hard, you were gone, and we all appreciated that very much.
Yeah. And listen, Kevin and I both have roots in South Jersey. We went to Cinnaminson High School. I grew up watching the Eagles every single Sunday. And speaking of that hard work and accountability, obviously it paid off. I remember that. I believe it was that '81 team that went all the way to the Super Bowl. I remember sitting in front of the TV as a little boy watching that game. What was it about that '81 team that made it so special?
Well, that was actually the '80 season.
Oh, it was the '80 season.
It was the '80 season. The prior year, we had a big win, a huge win. We've been getting better each and every year, but it counts. The wins is what makes it different. And we had a huge win in '79 against the Steelers. And yours truly had a big-time interception in that game. And we actually beat them in Philly, and the crowd just loved it. It was super. So we were able to knock off a team that eventually went to the Super Bowl and I believe won that year. So we knew that we were getting better. But the big thing for us, and Coach talked about it all the time, was beating the Cowboys. And to this day, I don't know if you guys would like me, but hey, beating the Cowboys is big. Still is big.
Yes.
And we had played them out there, played them at home. Then we got to play them in the NFC Championship game, which was in 1981, in January of '81 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And we beat them 20-7, and it could have been 50-7. That's how badly and soundly we beat the Cowboys. And they were good. And they were very good. They had great running backs. They had great offensive line. They had great schemes. They really had good defensive players. But our team played its best football that day in Veterans Stadium on the turf, probably about 22 degrees, probably about 15 wind chill. But we had the most fun, and that's the most fun game I've ever played in. And then we go to the Super Bowl, and we all have issues with what went on when we played in the Super Bowl. And I love Dick Vermeil. There's one time I think that we perhaps worked a little bit too hard, particularly when we got to New Orleans, and we had on media day. We went out in the first practice and had our full gear on, and when the practice was over, we thought we were going to get on the buses and head back and watch the tape. Nope. We got together and after the media day and got on the bus and went over to Tulane and had a second practice.
Wow.
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 Ouch.
And
He wasn't joking.
it was a little bit too much for most of us, and it didn't necessarily spiral out of control, but it was something that it got a little edgy. I think that we got a little tired that week in New Orleans,
Mhm.
and you know, we got off to a really bad start. We had an interception on offense, and then they were able to the Raiders, who we had beaten in regular season 10-7
Right.
in a very very physical game.
Right.
We had 8 sacks on Plunkett in that game, which
Wow.
we won 10-7. Uh, we could not pressure Plunkett in the game in the Super Bowl, and they had a few yards, and we had a couple misplays. And I tell you what, that was the toughest thing that I think I've ever been through, was losing that football game. The only thing that
Wow.
made it a little bit better was afterwards, my children were down, and my 5-year-old Brooks Bunting was on the New Orleans Saints turf, scratching out all the pictures of the Raiders players. That made me laugh.
Gotta love it. Gotta love
Yeah,
it.
indeed.
Coach. Now you've talked about obviously the 7 weeks of two-a-days, doing a double practice,
Wow.
Super Bowl week. I mean, just sort of the way the game was played and practiced back then compared to how it is now. I mean, it looks very different. As someone that's been around the game for a really long time, as a player, as a coach, when you sit down and watch a football game today, do you like the product that you see? Do you like the way the game has changed with some of the rule changes, or do you kind of prefer the way it was played back in your day?
Well, it was. We loved the way it was played back then, and we loved playing, and I miss playing. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. But I think the biggest things that I like about what has changed the game is the helmet to helmet contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, trying to take that out of the game, the spearing, this, that, and the other, because it happened, and I think that's a big thing. And I do really like protecting the quarterback. I mean, those guys. First of all, they make a lot of money, and secondly, they, they've got to be protected in the pocket. If they're running the football, they take a shot. But if they're in the
Right.
pocket, they are unable to protect themselves. I like that change, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach, you've been around a lot of great players, played with some greats, coached some greats. Being around football for so long, I'm sure you've had an opportunity to just see the difference between what makes a player great. And I always like to ask coaches this question because I'm just always curious about, is there a differentiating factor from good to great? Is it work ethic? Is it intelligence? Is it talent? What have you noticed that is that differentiator between a good player and a great player?
Well, I'll tell you about 2 players that I coached. One in college, and one in the NFL. I'll deal with the one in the NFL first. London Fletcher. 17 years he played in the league.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of John Carroll University, that
Yes.
powerhouse football program. Quick story: we brought him to camp because I approved him as a linebacker. I was a co-defensive coordinator at the time with the Rams, and when he was there, and I had seen mobility, I had seen a sense of football knowledge that he had. But when he came to my office and said to me during our first mini camp, and said, "Coach Bunny, um, listen, I just want to let you know that if you bring me to training camp, because this was a mini camp, if you bring me to training camp, you will never be able to cut me." and he prophesied that. He was smart. He was, he's built from the belt down like a monster. I mean, he is just a huge, strong player and could run. And what I did not know was how much he would be a student of the game. Loved to watch tape, loved to come in on his off day and talk with me or other staff members about our game plan. Very, very bright player. He's had a great career playing. I guess he went with the Bills, went with the Redskins. He was a tackling machine. In our Super Bowl year, I mean, he ran the defense, called all the signals, made all the checkoffs, and like I say, he was a tackler. Great coverage linebacker, great tackler, maybe the best tackler I ever saw. Second guy, tremendous. First guy, London Fletcher, John Carroll. Who knows about him? Nobody. We did, thank goodness, because he helped us get to the Super Bowl and win it.
Yeah.
The other guy, Julius Peppers, who I played at UNC.
Name keeps coming up.
I mean, he extremely talented. Another quick story: he missed a couple meetings after playing in the Final Four for the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And I got on his butt. I said, "Hey, you got to get to. You don't have to come out here and practice, but you got to get to our meetings, and you get to come out here and watch us practice to see what we're doing, Julius. This is my first year."
Mm-hmm.
And after he missed a couple of those things, I said, "You do it one more time, you won't be starting in the opening game against Oklahoma."
Wow.
The defending national champion.
Wow.
I don't think he believed me because he did it one more time. And when we went to play Oklahoma, he didn't play the first series. And they scored it right away. The defensive coordinator says to me, "Can we put Julius in now?"
Bring him out of timeout.
Let me tell you, he was a pleasure to coach. A great kid. Phenomenal. The greatest athletic player I ever coached.
Yeah.
And long career. He could do it all. Rush the passer.
Yeah.
He could tackle out in space. He could cover people if we put him in coverage. Just a great guy.
Yeah, that name has come up before on our show,
so
you are not the first person that has mentioned Peppers. Last one for me, Coach, and I think Kevin's got a couple for you, but just kind of a fun one. Coach David Riley was our high school coach at Cinnaminson High School. He was our head coach, led us to a state championship. I'm just curious. I think you guys played together on the Philadelphia Stars, if my research is correct. But what do you remember about Coach Riley?
Yes, we did play together. A phenomenal person, number one, and a great emotional attitude at all times. He's never a negative guy. He's a positive guy. That is good. I don't know what he was as a coach, but he was a very, very tough player, very physical, played fullback for us. Yeah. Excellent blocker for Kelvin Bryant.
Yeah.
The lead blocker. I mean, and he had a lot of talent. He could catch the football well. He could run the football well. He was a class act as well. I think you guys probably would agree with me that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Classy guy, does the right thing, cares about people, cares about players, cares about the people in his community. I admire him a great deal. I'm very, very pleased. I stay in touch with him, do a show with him every once in a while.
Yeah.
Good, real good man, and a really good player.
Yeah. And a great coach too. Yeah,
a tough one too.
The same way.
I would think that he would be a really, really good coach. So his communication skills, and he knows what it takes. He does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Coach. Absolutely, great stuff. Yeah, Coach. Just you mentioned you being at North Carolina, University of North Carolina. Now Mac Brown's there. Mac Brown is what's your how often do you get down there to watch a game, to be around this team, and also how do you feel about this particular team and the future of this particular program?
Let me just say this. Mac Brown is a Hall of Fame football coach. I don't think he's about 3 months, 4 months younger than me. I don't think he's lost it. I think that at times when things don't go well, he takes it upon himself maybe a little bit too hard. And I think you need to sometimes get after the players
Mm-hmm.
to play better, to play longer, to play harder. Um, when I took over the program back in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
Mac Brown had been gone, I think, 2 years.
Right.
There was a reputation there that he was too soft and this, that, he didn't practice,
Wow.
blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I believe that it is important for the head football coach to be able to communicate to the players what we're going to do, how hard we're going to play, how hard we're going to practice, and sometimes that changes. And
Right.
They've lost 4 in a row. I've watched every single one of those games, and it's been a different way to lose each time. And what I guess the sense that I have right now is that they've lost the ability to find a way to win.
Right.
And it's a shame because I don't want to see him go out that way. I would like to see him go out as a winner. And I'm hopeful in the second half of the season things can get better. They lost your quarterback in the first game of the season, but defensively they've just looked really ragged at times.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Now you've been with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm a diehard 49er fan, and for whatever reason, we just can't beat these guys. I mean, even this past Sunday, what is it about? We know we got the Patrick Mahomes, we know we got the Andy Reids. They lose receiver after receiver, so and it just seems like Patrick Mahomes, Magic Mahomes, whatever you want to call him. What is it about it? Andy Reid, the Chiefs organization that just has the ability to just keep it going, keep it rolling, if you will.
My favorite place to coach, Kansas City. Those fans love the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're there, 5 hours before game time. They're there 2 hours after game over. They love their Chiefs, and I just think that they've developed a mentality there. Andy Reid is a big part of it. The coaching staff is a big part of it. Spagnuolo's done a great job with the defense. They find ways to win. And, once again, I don't know how many receivers are out right now for the Chiefs, but it's for first guy up, next guy up.
Yeah.
Step up and play. Yes, the quarterback, I think eventually will be considered as a top 5 quarterback of all time. I really do. He's certainly a Hall of Fame guy, and he's tough. He's not afraid. He has a lot of confidence, and I just think that they've got it going, and I'm looking for them to go back to the Super Bowl and maybe win it again.
Yeah, you use that term "next man up." A lot of teams use that, especially today. So many receivers and so many players are going down, but they just have the ability to say, take that to another level, take that saying to another level. But with that being said, do you see them making any moves right now? What moves do you see them making? Do you feel like they have to? And 2, what moves do you see that they have to make, if any?
Well, injuries happen, and you cannot stop them. Hopefully that offensive line remains intact because they're pretty doggone good too.
Yeah.
I mean, and they do play a lot of different players. They get them in different positions. Andy Reid and his offensive coordinator do a terrific job directing that offense and making things happen. But the quarterback he makes it happen. I mean, he takes the ball down and runs, He finds a receiver on the run before he goes beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And he's a playmaker, big time.
Yeah, he takes playmaker to another level. One more question for you, Coach, and then we'll get you out of here. Is how often do you get back to South Jersey? Like Jay mentioned earlier, we're from South Jersey. We went to St. Vincent. Some of our guys went to Rowan, played at Glassboro State before it changed to Rowan. But how often do you get a chance to go back to South Jersey, if you will?
Well, that was probably one of the most important times of my life was going to Glassboro State and becoming their head football coach. I met my wife there of 33 years.
Wow,
she was the basketball coach and softball coach.
Wow.
So that was pretty good, right? I think that was a perfect place for me to, gain knowledge of what it's like to be a head football coach, working with players that play only because they love it.
Right.
Right. Financial aid based only. And we took the program that was a mediocre 5-5 program at best, and we turned it into a winner. And the fellow that took my place, Casey Keeler, took them to the championship. The most fun I ever had coaching. Nice. That include winning the Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams.
Wow.
That includes, beating, Miami at UNC, beating Florida State for the first time ever at North Carolina. That was the most fun I ever had, and I won't forget that the players were just terrific. They loved to play. They came to practice every day, and they're not on scholarship.
Right. Great point.
Playing for fun. All good.
Yeah. Hey, some great ones there too, Coach. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Coach. It was absolutely an honor. When I heard that you were going to be on, you agreed to come on. I let everybody know in that area that that you were going to be on. So hopefully they got a chance to listen to your stories. And again, we appreciate you, Coach. Thanks so much.
Enjoyed it, guys. You take care. Look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Coach John Bunting. We definitely appreciate him joining us. Great job. Love the stories. Always love hearing, some of the stuff K-Walk that we grew up on, some of the stories, some of the players that we remember. So just all around good stuff. But
you know what, Jay? I love hearing the same thing, like from different guys about Coach Ramil, about Julius Peppers, and those guys always seem to say the same thing, or say different wording, but pretty much the same meaning behind it. So it's great to hear the different guys saying pretty much the same thing. So good stuff there.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Let's dive into some of this football talk, K-Walk. A lot going on. Let's start in Pittsburgh, K-Walk, because the Jets and the Steelers, what was that? That was last night. Was that Monday night or Sunday night? It's all
the Jets Steelers was Sunday night.
That was Sunday night, right? The Steelers win the game. The Jets got a lot of issues going on. But let's start with Russell Wilson, because Russ makes his return, K-Walk. And we had talked about it on this show several times. Should they leave Justin Fields in there? Do you bring Russ in? We kind of went round and round about this thing, but at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin decided that he wanted to go with Russ for now, at least. What did you think of the decision, number one, to bring Russ off the bench, and then number two, how would you evaluate how Russ played?
Yeah. First, Jay, I thought it was a bad move going in. I'm not even going to lie, because I thought you were messing up something good, messing up a rhythm, if you will, the way Justin Fields was playing, especially the way he played the game coming off of versus the Raiders. He had an absolute outstanding game there. I said, there's no way he, meaning Mike Tomlin, is going to bring in a Russell Wilson, who's been sitting down for 6 to 8 weeks, including including training camp and things of that nature. There's no way he's going to disrupt this timing and chemistry, if you will, with Justin Fields. So I didn't think it was going to work, but seeing the game, Russ took that thing to another level, man, and against a team that was desperate for a win, a team that made some changes, a team that brought in, Devontae Adams, a team that thought that was the move that they had to make and they were ready to go. But Russ put on a show, man. Russ put on a show. Absolutely. It was a convincing win, a convincing performance by Russell Wilson. So it's making Mike Tomlin look like, he knows exactly what he's talking about. I know he was kind of patting himself on the back at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, y'all doubted me. But yeah, I doubted you, but I doubted you, brother. And I promise I won't do that again. But yeah, good call there on Mike Tomlin's part. And even better performance by Russ.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he played well after shaking off a little bit of rust early, right?
Yeah.
A couple balls went awry and things like that, but I thought he played really well. I wasn't that surprised that Tomlin went to him because even though, like we talked about, Justin Fields was playing well, I don't think he was playing so well that they couldn't afford to not at least try it. I thought he was playing good, but I didn't think he was playing lights out. And I thought that left a little crack in the door for Tomlin to be able to say, hey, let me see what Russ is going to give us. And I think Russ played extremely well. I think Russ obviously can do some things that might give him some options in the passing game that maybe Fields just doesn't do as consistently. So we'll get to one game. We'll kind of see what happens 1, 2, 3, 4 games down the road. Tomlin did kind of leave the door open in to go back to Fields if necessary. But for me, at least right now, it feels like that's probably Russ's job going forward unless something drastic happens, K-Walk. But then when you look on the other side at the Jets, man, they came into the season talking Super Bowl, high hopes, Aaron Rodgers, defense, blah, blah, blah. These guys look terrible. They look awful. Look, we know they brought in Devontae. Hassan Reddick will be back next week, but what is your take? What is the state of the Jets for you right now, K-Walk?
They're getting exactly what they deserve, Jay. They're getting exactly what they deserve. And I'm an advocate on the fact that the matter is, I said it on my show, Sports Talk with K-Walk Scott, on a segment we have called Knucklehead of the Week. It was Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers. I told them that exactly they're going to get exactly what they deserve for the way they went about handling the situation with Robert Saleh. And, I feel like, with Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers, and I wholeheartedly believe that he played a part, meaning Aaron Rodgers played a part in getting him fired. He got exactly what he wanted. He got Robert Saleh fired. He got the head coach that he wanted. He got the play caller that he wanted. He got the receiver that he wanted. And they lost 2 in a row. 2 in a row. So they're getting exactly what they deserve, Jay. So I have I don't want to root for anyone to lose. I wasn't rooting for the Jets to lose. I was more so rooting for the Bills to win, and I was rooting so much for the Steelers to win. So I'm looking at it from a positive standpoint, ladies. I'm not a negative. I'm not a negative Nancy by any stretch of the imagination, but all seriousness, Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers are getting exactly what they deserve, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, it's hard to argue that. I mean, it really is. I definitely think they handled the whole Robert Saleh situation poorly. I mean, poorly at best. Criminal at worst. What? Poorly at best, right? And I'm with you, man. They do not look like a good football team. Aaron Rodgers is a shell of himself. Every time he gets hit, K-Walk, or gets tackled, it looks like I'm just always watching, like, is he going to get up this time? Like, he looks like an old man out there trying to play football. And we know football is a young man's game.
Indeed, Jay.
Hey, look, man, I'm with you. I like to root and watch players now. I really don't have a team that I hang my hat on. But it's easy for me, like you said, not to necessarily root against the Jets, but to root for whoever they're playing to win the game, because I'm with you. I did not love how that whole thing went down. And just even sort of just the cockiness and the bravado that they came into the season with, thinking that, somehow they were going to catch lightning in a bottle. I never believed it. I never was a believer in the Jets. I mean, look, there's still a lot of football to be played, but right now this does not look like a good football team.
And Jay, you know what I love about it even more is that, I mean, I get it. Did you realize how many primetime games the Jets have had?
I know.
I mean, what they played 7 games. I had to take at least 5 of them, if not 6. I know all them weren't, but at least 5 or 6 of them have been prime time. I'm talking about Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, whatever you can find a prime time game. And I'm just happy that the entire nation or the world, if you will, are able to see what Aaron Rodgers is getting in this situation. Again, you get what you ask for. This is exactly what they deserve, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about Woody Johnson. Yep. And Aaron Rodgers, ladies, yep. not the fan base and not the other players surrounding them, because they it's not their fault. It's not
yeah. No, and speaking to getting what you deserve. Now, look, this is obviously to a much lesser degree, but Saquon Barkley returned back to New York this weekend. And obviously, it didn't work out with the Giants for whatever reason. They let Saquon walk out the door in the division to a heated rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. And Saquon comes back to New York and drops 176 rushing yards on their heads. What did you think of Saquon's performance this weekend, K-Walk?
Look, anyone who knows, I'm not a big Giants fan. I'm not a big Eagles fan, but I kind of like this. That, like you mentioned, it's kind of one of those things. You got that. It's that boomerang effect there, man. You let the man go, and you just didn't think he deserved what he ultimately got. You're on film. You're on TV, saying, and in a meeting with your head coaches and other execs, saying that he's not going to get this money anywhere else. And you guys didn't even make him an offer. And that's the sad part about it. If you didn't think he was deserving of what he got with the Eagles, that you should at least made him an offer. But but as far as the game goes, he came out and said it's just another game. I'm like, yeah, stop it, brother. We know. We saw the way you were warming up. You were out there about 3-4 hours before the game. I caught it like when I was watching the London game. I switched over to another. I went to another feed, and then he's out there already, Jay. He's ready to go. So and it showed in his running. The way he ran the ball. I mean, he ran with extra power, extra speed, Jay. It was just a different guy that we've seen. He's healthy, he's happy, and he's hungry right now. The 3 H's there, man. So that's a scary combination without question. So I'm happy for that guy, because it goes to show you that you can't really put a number on that guy, but you got to at least offer him something, man. You guys they didn't even offer him anything, and I don't know what they thought as far as where he would go. But he could have went anywhere. He could have even went to the Cowboys, and that could have been even uglier, or the Commanders, anywhere. But they never thought about the repercussions of that. But they felt it though on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. A healthy Saquon with a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, look out, right? And that's the thing that it's kind of puzzling to me. Like, you had this guy in your building. You couldn't see the value. You couldn't see the talent. You couldn't understand that maybe the team that you put together around him was part of the reason why the production wasn't there, and then you let him go out the door to your division rival that's got a ready-made offense, a great offensive line, good receive, like all these things to just set him up for success. So sometimes I wonder, like, who is in these front offices, K-Walk? Who is running these teams? Who's making these decisions? Because we see it all around the league, and this is just another example of it, man. But congrats to Saquon. Had a great game. You're right. He can say whatever he wants. Oh, it's just another game. There was no revenge factor. Saquon, save that for somebody else.
Yeah,
we know that you had a little extra on this one, man, and he played extremely well. All right, Kay, well, let's get to a little bit more of a somber note. Let's talk about your 49ers, man. Lost to the Chiefs this weekend. I don't even know that that's really the story. I mean, you mentioned it to Coach. I think, what are they, 0-5 against the Chiefs as of late? Something like that. 5, just haven't been able to get the W. But more importantly, the injury bug just seems to just continue to just be relentless on your San Francisco 49ers. So let's kind of start there. What is the state of we got Ayuk now out. I think Debo, I heard pneumonia this morning. I heard that. So maybe he's in the hospital.
Well, he was released today. He was just released a few hours ago. Yeah.
McCaffrey's still not back yet. Just the injuries are piling up, K-Walk. So let's start there. Do you think that your 49ers can sort of fight their way out of this, get guys healthy back on the field, and get this thing turned around? Let's start there.
Yeah, Jay, I definitely think we they can. I say we because that's how diehard fan of I am. But yeah, when you have a Jawan Jennings who's also out with a hip injury, he'll be back. Debo will be back. He has pneumonia, so I mean nothing. I'm not trying to say that's nothing to worry about. It's definitely something to worry about, but it's not a season-ending injury or illness.
Right.
So he's questionable for this week against the Cowboys. They have a bye week after that, so it gives him time to heal up there if he doesn't go this week. C-Mac is supposed to be coming back when he comes back. But I think Jordan Mason isn't a C-Mac, but if you're looking around the league, he's second in the league in rushing behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So there's no tremendous fall off there. I know there's tremendous fall off as far as his presence, meaning C-Mac's presence, not trying to downplay that by any stretch of the imagination. And then you have Brandon Ayuk go down. So Brandon Ayuk is done for the season. So that means, Coach Bunning mentioned, the age-old saying, the next man up.
Yeah.
And I think Jawan Jennings has shown that even though he's number 3 on the number 3 receiver on this particular team, he's actually a number 2 receiver, to be honest with you. We've seen it in the absence of Debo. He had that 3-touchdown game against, I think it was the Rams, 3-touchdown game against the Rams. And he's been big, in the absence of Debo and Ayuk. And you still got Kittle there, and then you got Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall looked pretty good on Sunday, and then you got the young kid Jacob Cowing as well. So it really is that next man up mentality right now for the 49ers, and I think they'll be able to get it done with Jawan Jennings. I think he'll step up and be a tremendous number 2. If he goes anywhere else, he could be a solid number 1 or solid number 2 anywhere else. So I think they'll be all right, Jay. I think they'll be all right. They're getting Dre Greenlaw back at the linebacker soon. The young kids are playing well in the safety situation, but Brock Purdy just wasn't himself on Sunday. So overall, Jay, to answer the question, I say all that to say they're in a good state. We're very optimistic. We're asking for a trade right now. Hopefully, they go out there and get D-Hop from the Titans before the Chiefs go out there and make something happen. They get them, but so hopefully we can bring a veteran guy in there like that to replace Ayuk. But I think overall we could still win the West, get in the playoffs, and then once you get in it, then you'll host a game, and then you get your momentum going there, and then anything can happen from that point.
Yeah. I still have a lot of confidence in the 49ers, the coaching staff, the roster. Look, injuries, sometimes they hit harder than you expect. Sometimes you can get through a season without them being too bad. Yeah. Right now, they seem to be hitting the 49ers pretty hard. But like you said, hopefully we can get the majority of these guys back. Obviously, Ayuk, he's out. There's not going to be anything you can do there. But if you can get everybody back and healthy for the second half of the season, I still think they're poised and ready to make a run. But looking at Sunday's game against the Chiefs, K-Walk, was there anything that you saw or didn't see that you were hoping to see? What was it, do you think, that just caused the 49ers to come up short in that game?
I just think that the absence of Debo Samuels, and I said it last year when we had him, he was out 3 games, those 3 games that the 49ers lost in a row. Anytime you miss him, I know C-Mac is a big part of the offense, but I think that Debo is a bigger factor in that offense than anything. And then, when you have a game plan and then immediately before the game, you realize that Debo is not going to be playing. He's not healthy. And then that throws everything out of the window. Like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a game plan until you get punched in the face. And that's exactly what the case was there. And Shanahan had a game plan and it involved Debo, but now you go to plan B and that involves Brock Purdy having to throw the ball a lot. And Spagnuolo from the Chiefs knew that and said, listen, we're going to, these guys don't have their top receivers. Let's play man on man. Let's go man on man and see what he can do. We'll send blitzes at him and see what he can do. First half of the game, Jay, to answer your question, as what I didn't see is Brock Purdy seeing the field and reading the coverages the right way.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. But he made a difference in the second half. They made the adjustments. It was just too little, too late, and the margin for error was very small. And if they were driving, they got down there and they were ready to make a big move, and then all of a sudden, the protection breaks down, he gets hit, and he throws an interception in the end zone. So I just think that it was just the game plan was just it was derived, if you will, was derailed because of that illness to Debo. Not making any excuses by any stretch of the imagination, but that's what I saw. Just Brock Purdy not seeing the field in the beginning. They made the necessary adjustments in the second half, and you saw a different Brock Purdy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an interesting team, man, because obviously we know the talent. You came into this season convinced that this is a team that's not only going to win the Super Bowl.
And I put a caveat in there. I said, barring any major injuries.
That's right. You did. You absolutely did. Let me take the temperature on that now, K-Walk. How do you feel about that now? You've sort of seen how some of the injuries have played out. You don't have Ayuk. Other than Ayuk, though, eventually you should get everyone else back, correct?
Yeah, so, everyone else is due back at some point, yeah.
So let's assume that they get healthy. You still have the confidence that they can be the last team standing in February?
Absolutely, Jay. Because for one reason, because everyone's coming back, and then I just think they're hungry right now, and in a division, especially in a division that we have, which is very winnable for us or any other team in that division as well. But for us, yes. Two, if you look around the league, we're not the only ones suffering these major injuries. Look at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers just lost both of their receivers, and Mike Evans, and that ugly injury to Chris Godwin. The Saints went down with their injuries, and the guys are just dropping like flies. So right now, there's a lot of parity, in my opinion. I know that right now you look at the league or look at the NFC, and you probably say the Detroit Lions are playing the most consistent ball. They lost their big rush, their pass rusher and Aiden Hutchinson. So everyone's suffering these big injuries right now, Jay. So I feel confident in it because it's starting to turn into a level playing field, if you will. There's a lot of parity there, especially in the NFC. So you can't really say there's one team right now that's actually looking dominant.
I agree.
Right now. So I think, like I said, if we could just keep our head above water, just hold the fort down to the cavalry rise, if you will, win the division. I don't think we'll be a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed, but when we win that division, we'll be able to host a playoff game, and then you hope someone else loses and you can get a divisional home game or what have you. But at least just take care of home field. I mean, home advantage with if you win the championship. I mean, if you win the division and host that game, and then hopefully momentum will take them to the promised land again.
Yeah,
one game at a time for sure.
Get in, and then once you get in, anything happens. But I agree with you. I don't think there's been a team, especially on the NFC side. I mean, Detroit looks really good, physical.
Yeah, they do.
I mean,
they do.
They look really good. But I don't think anyone I don't think you can really stamp anyone, right? I feel like it's going to be extremely competitive by the time we get to the playoffs. So your Niners have just as good a shot as anybody. Let's talk. You mentioned Mike Evans, K-Walk. We know he went down with a hammy. Chris Godwin, looks like he might be out for the season with that injury. But Mike Evans, before he got hurt, K-Walk, he caught his 100th touchdown. And when they put the list up on the board of the other guys that did it, what was it, like T.O., Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Marvin Harrison, and him. Like, I mean, what an exclusive club to be in. But then I start thinking, and I definitely want to get your opinion on this, because sometimes when we start talking about the greatest receivers of all time, right? Obviously, Jerry Rice comes up, Moss comes up, T.O. comes up, Marvin Harrison, people talk about his hands, his route running, but very rarely, or at least I haven't heard, a lot of people put Mike Evans in that category. Does he deserve to be there, K-Walk, or is he overlooked, or is it right to kind of have him in the next tier down? What's your evaluation of Mike Evans?
No, I think he definitely deserves to be there, Jay, and that talk. And the thing about Mike Evans, he's caught his 100th touchdown pass, last night. And you look at his history of games, he's always hurt. So, he's constantly missing games each and every season. I think he's been in the league for 10, 11 years now, if my memory serves me correctly. And I'm just wondering if he stayed healthy and played like at least half of those games, where he would be on that particular list. He could be much higher if he could just stay healthy. And like, again, we saw last night that injury it's always his hamstring or ankle or whatever. It's always something with him. I definitely think, man, if he stayed healthy, he'll be in that club. I don't think no one's catching Jerry. If he played another 10 years, Jay, and caught 10 touchdown passes a year, he still wouldn't be close.
Yeah.
He still wouldn't be close. So that's one of the records in sports that I think is untouchable, in my opinion. But no, to answer the question, he definitely deserves to be in that conversation with all those guys, the Rices, the Owens, the Mosses, the Harrisons, absolutely. And if he could if he was healthier, yeah, he'll definitely, without question, this question wouldn't be posed. It would be like, where would you put him at? Would you put him before Moss? Would you put him before, Harrison or T.O.? But he definitely deserves to be there.
And I'm guilty, man. I am guilty of overlooking this guy. Like, I've always thought he's a good receiver, like, obviously, but I never really thought of him in that same breath as a T.O., as a Randy Moss, as a Marvin Harrison. I just never thought of him in that breath. But when you look at his numbers, when you look at some of the things that he's done, I agree with you. He deserves to be in that conversation. Now, okay, well, as a guy that's played the position, you know the position as good as anybody. I'm really asking because I don't know. Does he do anything great? Like, is there anything about his game that is great, or is he just super consistent, like with everything? Like, is he a great route runner? Does he have great hands? Does he have great speed? Like, is there anything about him that jumps off the page at you? Because for me, that might be where I've missed. I feel like he's really good, but he doesn't jump off the screen at me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that he does that's great that I'm just overlooking?
Yeah, Jay, and I asked myself that question too, and I put the film on and I watched this guy, and I wanted to know what is about this guy that he's in this category, and we're talking about him. He has a sneaky way. He's not fast. He's not quick. I mean, he's strong, but he's not T.O. strong or anything like that. He's not a great route runner. Jay, he has a sneaky ability of getting separation. Getting separation. And I don't know how. I mean, you look at it, you can look at it, okay, well, he caught a lot of passes in zone, but when I want to look at his man-to-man coverage and see how he gets open, Jay. I don't know what it is, but he just has a sneaky ability to separate at the right time. Yeah. He's sneaky good in that, and that's not something that you can coach. There's nothing that any coach out there, the best wide receiver coach, or you can sit down with all five of those guys that you and I just talked about, and there's nothing they're going to tell you that what you do to. Maybe Mike Evans probably could, because he's sneaky good, but it's not something that you can coach. So it's just his ability to separate at the right time. And it's not as soon as the ball gets to him, Jay, he creates so much space in such a small period of time. And it's like, how does he do that? And you really can't figure it out. And that's how I broke him down. His ability to separate so quickly in a small period of time. I think he's just sneaky quick.
That is a spot on evaluation, because you're right. Like, watching him, I can't put my finger on it, but now that you say that, I can see it, right? Like he is really good at separating at the right time, because he doesn't. When I'm watching him, I don't look at him and say, "Oh, he's super fast." Yeah. He doesn't strike me as that, but he has a way of separating, sometimes even at the last minute, and finding a way to get open and catch those balls. So I think that's a great evaluation of Evans. So yeah, I was shocked. I didn't know that he was in that category with those guys, but I think you're right. I think he's highly, highly underrated as a receiver.
Yeah, one of our guys, Special K, who comes on Sports Talk K-Walk, he's got Wednesdays night 7 p.m. wherever you get your podcast. Name is plugged there. But he's a diehard Buck fan, and he always wants to put Mike Evans in that category as well. And I always said, he thinks he's going to break Jerry Rice's record. So we'll get into it, going back and forth with that without question. But just a shout out to Special K. He's convinced, man. He's got me looking. He had me looking to see, why is this guy so good? How's he getting so many touchdowns, and he played with so many different quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
So so good stuff there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, K-Walk, Deshaun Watson, man, he just can't seem to catch a break, man. Obviously, things weren't going well in Cleveland before. Ruptures his Achilles this weekend. Obviously, he's out for the season, and maybe it might even bleed into next season if he's even going to be on the Cleveland Browns. Who knows? Right. When you kind of look at Deshaun and you kind of look down the road at his career, K-Walk, what do you see? Like, do you think he ever plays for Cleveland again? Do you think he plays football again? Do you think he can resurrect his career? Like, what do you see when you look at Deshaun Watson right now?
Yeah, Jay, we mentioned getting what you deserve. I mentioned that earlier. Maybe has something to do with that, Jay, and anyone who knows and that's been on us watch this show and listen to my show on Wednesday nights. I'm a big time Deshaun Watson guy, man, but there's nothing you can do if I guess they call it, was it karma? I guess I don't know what you want to call it, karma. I don't know what you call it, Jay, or how you put your finger on it, but I just think that's what it's about right now, man. This guy they traded his top receiver, his only receiver, in my opinion, away to the Bills and Amari Cooper, and then he goes down the very next game with that Achilles injury, Jay. So yeah, I guess it's one of those things, man. If I gotta be consistent, if I'm going to call a spade in New York, I gotta call a spade in Cleveland. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that does he play with Cleveland again? I think that that ship has sailed. I think they'll find a way to get out of that contract or find a suitor for him.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think he's going to be done playing football. I think he has a lot to prove. I think he has to get right with himself and the powers that be. I don't know who that is, wherever, but I think this is a time that he has to reflect, do some self-reflecting, if you will, and don't feel sorry for yourself. Just ask, this is a sign. This happened for a reason. I always believe everything happens for a reason. Why did this happen? Self-reflect and try to make it as best as possible. But I think he gets a new leash on life, if you will, Jay. I just don't know with who, but the right organization, can bring him back to where he was before he got traded to Cleveland. On the field.
Yeah. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky because obviously the contract. I think they still owe him up like around 170 million, somewhere in that range. And then coming off the injury, teams are going to be thinking, what am I really getting? Wasn't playing great before the injury. What's he going to look like after? So it's going to be tricky. Cleveland's going to have to eat some of that money. I don't think there's any question about that. But it almost feels like a fresh start, a new environment. That's the only thing that I think is going to be good for him. That's going to work for him. Go find a team, get yourself healthy, get yourself right, as you said, K-Walk, and see if you can come back and have a third act, a better third act than the second act, So, man, that was, look, Deshaun has been through the things that he's been through. Yeah, man. A lot of things, accusations said. So I'm not saying I feel sorry for the man or anything like that.
Right.
Hey, if he's going to continue to play football, I want to see him get healthy and see if he can get back out there and sort of not just resurrect his career, but resurrect his life at this point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we'll be watching that closely. There won't be any answers anytime soon, but we'll be keeping an eye on that one for sure.
For sure.
All right, good stuff, K-Walk. Let's shift gears, man, because I thought the WNBA finals was fantastic.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. Went 5 games. I think 4 out of the 5 games came down to the final minute. It was back and forth every single night these ladies played. New York gets out of there with the win in overtime in game 5. Not without controversy, as the Minnesota Lynx coach Cheryl Reeves said the game was stolen from them. I've never heard a coach say that. Game was stolen from them.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Liberty in a minute, K-Walk, because I think obviously they deserve to get their flowers for winning their first WNBA championship. But let's start with the officiating. What did you think of the officiating? Did you think it impacted that game the other night, game 5?
Jay, you know what? I don't think it impacted the game, per se, because if you look at that game, Minnesota had that game in hand. They were up, I think, at 12 points. I think it was the biggest lead that they had in the first half. And then, we know that the NBA or WNBA, there's always going to be runs that's going to be made.
Yep.
But they had their opportunity to close that game out, Jay. They really did. And when it came down to crunch time, I'm going to say, I'm going to say that it was, maybe it was a controversial call, but overall, I think the Minnesota Lynx had that opportunity, and I think that, and they just let it slip through their hands. And I think that the Liberty just took advantage of that. They wanted it more. They were home. They were feeding off that home crowd. And they came back, like a championship team does. They let that first game get away. Let's not forget that first game. Stewie missed those 2 free throws, or one of the 2 free throws. So that game. I mean, that could have had that game, and the series could have been over. In 4, if you will. But I think the Lynx had many opportunities to win this series, and it just came in. Obviously you're going to focus on one play because it was the biggest play in the game, and you're going to magnify that, but just let's not forget about what took place in the first half and then, and leading into the second half. But I think the Lynx had that game won.
Yeah. And K-Walk, I've said this a million times. I am not a blame it on the refs person.
Nope.
I hate when people try to blame the refs for losing. Yeah. I just can't stand it. That being said, I do think it was a terrible call at the end of the game. Like, I do not think that was a foul. I've watched it back several times. I do not think that was a foul, especially given the physicality that the refs allowed them to play with all night. I mean, and that's what I love about the WNBA. Like, they're playing defense. It's physical. They're bumping. They're grabbing. Like that. I did not love the call. That being said, I'm not going to blame that on the reason why you lost. There was still an overtime to be played. You didn't get it done in overtime.
Yeah. Exactly.
You mentioned they were up 12 points early in the game and let New York get back in it. I think they were up 5 with 2 minutes to go in regulation and let New York get back in it.
Yes.
So I agree with you. They had their opportunities to win. I'm never a blame it on the refs guy. If you get a bad call, figure out a way to overcome it. That's just how I feel about bad calls. We've all experienced them in our lives. And look, the Liberty can probably go back and pull up tape of 5 to 10 bad calls they got throughout the series. So I don't want to make that the issue, but obviously it's magnified because it's at the end of game 5.
Right, exactly.
But I think you're right, K-Walk. When it really came down to it, number one, the Lynx had no answer for Jonquel Jones. She was a matchup nightmare for them in this series. Because even when Sabrina and Stewie did not play great, they still figured out a way to win the game. Tough.
Sally Sully. She also came up big in game 5 as well. Her sister plays for Dallas as well. So I thought she came up big in that game as well.
Yes, she absolutely did. When they put that big lineup in, the Lynx really had no answer for it, man. No. So got to give New York a ton of credit. Their first championship since the league has begun. And you got to give them a lot of credit. Look, Minnesota played great. I thought Nafisa Collier was the best player in the series.
Yeah,
I mean, she was outstanding. But at the end of the day, they didn't get it done. So congrats to New York. And the WNBA, man, right now it's hot. Like that is such a great series, man. Such a great series.
Yeah, shout out to McBride too. She played a heck of a game.
She
did.
She did.
So a series, not just a game.
Yeah.
But Jay, they opted out of the CBA.
I saw that.
So, and I think it's perfect time, and I think it's exactly what they should do. And I mean, the numbers going to speak for themselves, and they're going to get exactly what they want. There should be no stoppage.
Yeah.
There should be no work stoppage at all. Give these ladies what they deserve. Whatever they ask for, no negotiating. Whatever they ask for, give it to them.
Yeah, I saw they did that, K-Walk. I didn't see the numbers yet on game 5, but I think in game 4 they had 2 million viewers. So the numbers are at an all-time high. Yeah. Look, obviously we know about the Caitlin Clark effect, Angel Reese, that rookie class the energy it brought to the WNBA. And then when you kind of start looking down the road with Paige Beckers coming into the league next year, Walk, Kiki Iriafen, like there's some really good players that are coming.
Juju. Oh, no, she's not coming next year.
Juju's going to be, I mean, so like this is the time right now. Like if you're buying stock, getting some WNBA stock, man, I'm telling you, because the players that are coming down the pike are really, really good. So it's going to be a lot of great basketball being played.
Yeah, shout out to my Liberty here. Shout out to my Liberty.
Shout out to the Liberty, man. And K Walk made that dollar on our bet too, ladies.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, man. I'm keeping it right there because I know another one's gonna come up soon. I'm not even gonna touch
it. All right, man. Let's get into a little bit of college football, K Walk. Texas beat Georgia on Saturday night. No. Georgia beat Texas on Saturday night. Georgia beat Texas on Saturday night. I think most people thought going into that game, myself included, that Texas was going to win that football game. But Georgia controlled the game pretty much from start to finish. College football has been weird this year, man. Like I don't know that there's a great team. I see some good teams. I see some really good teams, but I don't know that anybody has jumped off the page to me and said that's a dominant team that's going to be really hard to be beaten. Do you have right now, K Walk, a top 5 in college football? If you had to come up with 5, who would your top 5 be right now?
Yeah, I think you have to look at it as, I think it's presently constructed. Well, no, I think Miami might be at 5, but I don't have Miami at 5. I'm going to put Oregon at number 1 because of the way everything's shaped out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's my best team in the country. So I'm going to go Oregon number 1.
Okay.
We'll go Ohio State number 2.
Okay.
I'm going to put your Penn State Lions at number 3 because of the fact of the matter is, I mean, they haven't jumped off the page for me, but they're winning. They're winning. They're undefeated, and they're in the Big Ten. Number 4, I think I'll put Texas there. Texas. I think I have 5. Who else? Who am I missing?
Georgia. Is Georgia still in your top 5 after that big win over Texas?
I have them, Jay, and I have them. Let me just go back real quick and just look at my because I have Oregon at number 1. I have Ohio State at number 2. I have Georgia 3. I'm sorry. I have Georgia 3. Your Penn State Lions at 4, and I have Texas at 5. Those are
okay. Yeah, and that's a great 5. Like I don't think you can argue that 5. I agree with you about Penn State. They've won, but similar to Miami, like they have not been super impressive in their win. They have not played a complete game. And honestly, like every weekend we come into the game, I'm like, if we play good, we'll win. But if a couple things go wrong, we could lose. Like, so I don't mind that people have them at 4, 5, whatever, because the fact of the matter is Penn State has not come into any game and just completely dominated anyone from start to finish. And we got Wisconsin at night this weekend, Camp Randall. That stadium is going to be hostile. Like that is not going to be an easy game. That is not going to be an easy game. And I kind of feel the same way about Miami too, K-Walk. Like they've won. They're undefeated. So look, you got to give them credit for winning because they haven't done what some of these other teams have done and lost to someone that they should have beat, right? Like Alabama lost to teams that they should have beat. Georgia, I think even Georgia losing to Alabama after we've kind of seen what Alabama really is, right? So there's been a lot of teams that have lost games that they shouldn't have lost. So I give Miami credit, even though they've played a bunch of close ones, they've found a way to win, but they don't look like one of the best 5 teams in the country right now.
Yeah, Jay, and they don't play anybody like, that's, like Georgia plays Alabama or like, Penn State plays, who's I think the biggest
Ohio State coming up.
Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, you're in a dogfight constantly. They had to come back from, playing Cal. They were in a dogfight. They gave up 45 points or how many other points they gave up to Louisville.
Yes.
Not no slide to Louisville. But I just don't think that team.
Virginia Tech had them on the ropes.
Thank you. Yeah, Virginia Tech. I mean, they have a great offense. With Cam Ward, arguably the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. I mean, that's an individual award. He can have that. But when your defense is allowing 30 plus 25 plus, how many ever points they're averaging or giving up. Going into these games and you get into the playoffs and you face these teams that we mentioned, the Penn States, or you're not going to be able to overcome that because these defenses are serious.
Yeah,
these defenses are serious, and if your defense can't cut, and your defenses are going to give up the same amount of points that they're giving up to these teams that we mentioned, the Oregons, the Penn States, the Georgias, the Alabamas, you're going to get
no way.
You're going to be what's the old age saying? Taken behind the woodshed and I never know what happens behind the woodshed. they took it behind the woodshed, but nothing. I never said what happened.
Whatever it is, it ain't good.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's for sure. I'm with you, K-Walk. I agree 1,000%. Their schedule has not been great. They don't even play Clemson.
Clemson's not even on the schedule,
so they won't even play Clemson until the ACC championship if they both get there. So it's really hard to put a beat on them just because the schedule has not been great. But we'll see. College football has been great. This has been one of the best years of college football. We got a bunch of really good games again this weekend. Shout out to your Gators even, K-Walk. They look like they're getting a little bit better every week.
Yeah.
So
Jay, for sure. And then DJ Ragway is doing a great job there. His two receivers are stepping up, DK and Badger. I call him the Honey Badger because he's smooth and sweet like honey. So I like these, and the defense is starting to complement that offense as well. And a lot of people thought the season was over once Graham Mertz went down with that ACL. But you're right.
Yeah, and I think they're off this weekend, and then Georgia next week. So
litmus test.
You never know. You never know, man. Like Florida's the kind of team that you can go into any game and just say you never know. Like if they put a great game together, I think they can beat anybody. And I think that's the kind of college football season it has been. Yes, anybody can beat anybody. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch. All right, K-Walk, let's close this thing out with some baseball talk.
Yeah, man.
I don't really know a lot about what I'm talking about here, but I do know the Yankees and the Dodgers are going to kick this World Series off. I believe it starts on Friday. Is that right? Friday night. The Yankees are back, K-Walk. How do you feel about this series, man? I don't know anything about these teams, but how do you feel about it? Your Yankees are in it. Obviously, the Dodgers with Shohei. I mean, it's going to be big business. L.A., New York. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than this.
Exactly, right?
So when you just look at it, though, how do you feel about the teams? Do you feel like the Yankees have a good chance to get this thing done?
Yeah, Jay, marquee matchup, as you mentioned, Ohtani, Judge, arguably probably they're MVPs in their respective leagues. I liked what the Yankees look like, especially their bullpen. Their bullpen is solid right now. That's what got them to this point. And, they're getting the rest that they deserve, almost a week, not a full week, but enough. If those bats can come up and big, if Juan Soto can continue to do what he's been doing, Giancarlo Stanton, I mean, good gracious, American League Championship MVP, rightfully so. And Judge hasn't really been, hasn't performed up to, the contract, his name, all that stuff. So if he could come around and compliment those guys, it's going to be a tough series for the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers bats are just as good as the Yankees bats. I think the Yankees have an edge in pitching. I think they definitely have an edge in the bullpen. I think that's where this series is going to be won or lost. You're going to see some scoring. But when it gets down to late, it's all about the bullpen. And right now, the starting pitch, and I give the slight edge to the Yankees because of Garrett Cole, Rondon, especially you got Schmidt, and then Hills coming in as well. I don't trust the Dodgers. I'm not saying this because I'm a Yankee fan, but if you look at it and you go through all of the check marks, batting, you probably put a push at as far as the lineups go. Starting pitching, I think you give the edge to the Yankees. Bullpen, you definitely give the edge to the Yankees there, and then the intangibles, we'll see. But I think this still is full 7. Though I say all that, I think it goes a full 7, and I think the Yankees bring home number 28 in the 7-game series.
Yeah, you're right, man. Marquee matchup doesn't get any bigger than this. Has there been a team out of those two teams? Because I'm not just saying this. I truly don't know which team has been better all year. Has there been a team that's sort of been out in front of the other? Is one of them more of a surprise, or which team has
No, Jay. No, these teams are basically what they were all season long.
Okay.
There was never a team that actually went out there, went on a huge streak. The Yankees went through a one stretch where they were winning games, and they went through one stretch where they were losing games. And very well they were able to win the AL East because Baltimore, at the same time that the Yankees were slumping, they were slumping. The same thing with the Dodgers and the Padres in their respective in the National League West. So 1-2. The Dodgers have the best record in the majors, and the Yankees are right behind them as well. That's why they have. So yeah, these two teams have been consistent for the most part. So this is why we're seeing these two teams in the World Series.
It's going to be a great series, man. Yeah. I can't imagine the fanfare in New York and then in LA. Yeah. It's going to be a great series. So even though I don't watch a lot of baseball, I'm definitely going to be locked in for this for sure. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, no Brittany Jones tonight, so you know what that means. K Walk and I get to cut out of here a little bit early. It's been a great show. We hit a lot of great topics. Special thanks to our guest, Coach John Bunting. He did a great job. Before we get out of here, though, K Walk, let the people know where they can find you. If there's anything you're looking forward to this week.
Yes, you can find me on Facebook, Kevin Walker, Instagram, Kevin.Walker 142, Instagram. Twitter, formerly known X, formerly known as Twitter at Kevin Walker 142. This is my 4-time plug in this. But tomorrow night, Sports Talk with K Walk East Scott joined by Special K, 7 p.m. Never had it so good sports radio. We were off last week, technical difficulties. We could plan on being back this week. E. Scott wants to talk about his Saints. Speaking of injuries, Special K, Bucks fan injuries, and my 49ers. So we're gonna definitely talk about that and so much more, ladies and gentlemen. So tune into that tomorrow night. Sports Talk K Walk E. Scott. Never had it so good sports radio, 7 p.m.
All right, good stuff.
What I'm looking for, Jay, I'm sorry. Basketball season started. I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into that groove, Jay. I'm trying to, but still got more football, college, and the NFL. So just looking forward to just more sports days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You guys can find me at Jason Talk Sports on all social media platforms. I'm with you, K-Walk. All sports, all the time. That's really all I do, man. That's really all I do, K-Walk. And you're right, man. Basketball starts tonight. I don't know. I'm going to try. I think the Lakers and Minnesota play the second game tonight. I might try to get about half an hour of that in before I go to bed. I don't know. It's hard to get into basketball right now. I know everything else is happening. But I'm saying too. I'll catch a little bit of it just to see this season.
The Celtics are blowing out the Knicks right now.
Celtics and Knicks are on right now, right?
Yeah, they're getting blown out too. So
Celtics are winning.
Yeah, they're 54-37 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, so New York Knicks fans, y'all might need to calm down a little bit, just a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys sticking around. We'll be back here live next Tuesday. Brittany will be back next week, so we'll be back live next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So for Kevin Walker, I'm Jason Collins. We'll see you guys next week.